In this video, you will learn more about the key principles that every assembly monitor should keep in mind and respect to ensure effective human rights monitoring. The purpose of monitoring is to improve the protection of and respect for human rights. As monitors, we have to work to a high standard to ensure that our observations are viewed as legitimate and can bear scrutiny. Remembering and complying with a number of basic principles is essential in our human rights monitoring. We're now going to explain these principles and provide some examples of their application in hypothetical situations drawn from the experiences of monitors, working in a diverse range of contexts. First, as monitors, we should show respect for the law and be familiar with the applicable legal framework. We should work within the national laws at all times and should follow all lawful instructions from the police and emergency services. Before going to monitor an assembly, it is therefore important for us monitors to do research and understand the national laws regulating the right to freedom of peaceful assembly in the country, as well as laws regulating police actions, including police use of force. Second, as monitors, it is important that we maintain our objectivity throughout our activities. The way we dress or behave can also compromise the perception of our objectivity. As monitors, we are individuals in our own rights and responsibilities. At the same time, when monitoring, we should maintain an objective position in order not to jeopardize the objectives of the monitoring. Let's consider an example. You are monitoring an assembly and you are approached by participants offering you accessories with assembly slogans. If this happens, in order to preserve your objectivity as monitor, you should kindly decline the offer and not take the items, even if everyone else around you is wearing them. To illustrate a second essential aspect of the principle of objectivity, we are going to watch a short clip of two assembly monitors debriefing their findings following an assembly monitoring exercise.
Do you remember that during the assembly there was one participant who came to us and informed us about the arrest and detention of two peaceful protesters?
Yes, true, I remember that. It was quite concerning to hear.
Yeah, I agree. And I really think we should be including that in the final report.
You think so? I'm hesitating a little bit because we didn't actually observe the moment of the arrest.
No, that's true. We didn't observe that. But the participant who came to us seemed pretty reliable. And that's such an important part of the protest. I think it's essential that we include that.
I don't know. I'm really not sure. Aren't we supposed to report only on things that we have actually observed?
What we saw in this clip is an illustration of the fact that as monitors, we should only base our reports on what we have seen and heard. We should not report on hearsay. In this case, the information provided by the participant can be recorded by the monitors during the assembly, but should not appear in the assembly monitoring report as an observation made by the monitoring team. Here it is also important to highlight that when we collect additional information regarding an assembly through follow-up meetings, we should try to contact all parties involved and to collect a variety of views to maintain our objectivity. The principle of non-intervention is the third principle we should keep in mind and respect while conducting our monitoring activities. This means that we should not advise anyone involved in an assembly or voice opinions about the event being monitored or the actions of any party involved. We should also not offer any opinion to the media or other third parties on the assembly or events associated with the assembly. Remember that any comments should be limited to general information about the monitoring project and our role as independent monitors. Let's consider, for example, a situation in which a journalist approaches us during an assembly to ask what are our initial observations or some other questions regarding our monitoring activity. The answer we should give them in such case very much depends on the context in which we operate and the organization we are affiliated with, if any. A good way to ensure we respect the principle of non-intervention would be to refer the mandate mission of our organization, the purpose of our monitoring activity, and our role as monitors. If these will be shared publicly, we can also mention where the findings of our observation will be available once ready. As a fourth principle, the objective and basic methodology of our monitoring project should be open and transparent. This can include placing information about our monitoring work on a website and engaging with relevant authorities. For example, your monitoring organization could include details on its website and through social media about your monitoring objectives and methodology, as well as examples of your identification. Your monitoring organization should also consider sending letters to the police, the municipality, and other relevant actors, informing them of your assembly monitoring work. While it is important to be visible, open and transparent, the constant display of equipment for monitors is not absolutely necessary. As monitors, we can set ourselves apart by our conduct, such as by creating a physical distance from the assembly participants and not engaging in conveying any messages related to the assembly. However, we should have some form of personal identification or other visibility items with us at all times. These can be either continuously displayed or shown upon request of the authorities, depending on the monitoring objectives, on safety and security considerations, or on other circumstances. We highlighted at the beginning of this module that the purpose of any human rights monitoring is to improve the protection of and respect for human rights. In line with this goal, and as a fifth principle, monitors should respect the rights of all parties, make sure that we do no harm, and ensure the safety and security of everyone involved. We should be mindful of our own safety and security and make sure we work as part of a team without taking unnecessary or undue risks. Each monitor's personal safety should override all other considerations. We must also ensure the safety, security, and confidentiality of our nodes, electronic data, and other information, especially when these contain sensitive data. To illustrate the fifth principle, let's ask two of our monitors to give us their opinion on the following case scenario. You are an assembly monitor, and your monitoring team has stayed until the very end of an assembly, and there's almost nobody left at the site. As you walk away, you see a teenage participant attacked by two unknown assailants. There are two police officers just down the street, but they either don't notice or don't care. What should you do in this situation?
I would walk away, I think. I'm not sure alerting the police would be a good idea in this situation. As monitors, we should protect our safety and security at all costs, and we should avoid interfering in order to preserve our impartiality and objectivity.
I'm not sure I agree. In this situation, I think we have a duty of care as citizens to help the teenager and call the police if he's in danger. While I agree it's important to be impartial, objective, and protect our safety and security as monitors, I think some situations call for our intervention.
The second monitor raised important points. While as monitors, it is important for us to be mindful of safety and security, we need to remember that we also have social responsibilities as individuals, and there might be times when we consider it necessary to intervene in a particular situation, for instance, to help someone who is being physically assaulted, as was the case of this example. Your monitoring team should discuss such eventualities as part of general preparations. As monitors, we should behave professionally, appropriately, and respectfully at all times. We need to make sure to adhere to the deployment plan and all other instructions provided by the monitoring team coordinator, and attend all required briefings and debriefings. We should also treat our teammates with respect and not discriminate against them on the basis of gender, race, nationality, disability, and other status, real or perceived. To illustrate another important aspect of this principle to keep in mind when working with our teammates, we are going to watch a short clip in which two assembly monitors are disagreeing on the observations they made when monitoring an assembly.
I clearly heard the police giving a warning before dispersing the assembly.
Are you sure? I think they didn't give any warning and they dispersed the assembly participants immediately. It's important to figure out what happened here, as it will impact our findings and recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. I suggest that we check the videos that we took during the assembly and also maybe posts and videos on social media to be able to establish whether the police gave a warning or not.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we can also ask our other team of monitors to see if they heard any warning from their locations.
Yes, let's do it. Very good idea.
Okay.
So I checked the videos and the other resources that we have, but unfortunately I couldn't find any recordings of that moment of the assembly. And also checking public sources, I couldn't see whether the police gave a warning or not. What about you? Did you have a chance to check with other teams?
Yes, I checked with our other teams of monitors, but they also have different views on this. So how should we proceed then?
Well, I think that since we cannot really reach an agreement, we should record all the views in the monitoring report, also maybe stating that we could not agree on this point and had diverging views.
Makes sense. Let's do that.
As you have seen, when we experience disagreement with our teammates regarding the observation findings, we should ensure not to compel or coerce our teammates to report in any specific way, but to seek additional information to clarify the difference. If no agreement can be reached, the different views should be recorded. Finally, a good practice for monitoring project is to adopt and work in accordance with the code of conduct that outlines the core principles and ethical norms or values of their work. This code of conduct should serve as an integral part of assembly monitoring methodology. As assembly monitors, we need to understand and abide by the code of conduct in the context of our duties. This will help us ensure consistency in the approach we take while fulfilling our duties, and therefore contribute to the achievement of the monitoring objectives. It is good practice to make the code of conduct public and to raise awareness of it in communication with third parties related to assembly monitoring projects. Here is an example of the code of conduct used by ODIHR assembly monitors. In this module, we have introduced the key principles that every assembly monitor should keep in mind and respect to ensure effective human rights monitoring. We have learned that it is important to be objective, open and transparent, and mindful of everyone's safety and security, while always respecting the law and behaving professionally. We also learned that, as monitors, it is a good practice to work in accordance with the code of conduct, outlining the core principles and ethical norms of our monitoring work. In the next module, we will teach you how to plan a monitoring mission, including how to prepare a deployment plan, how to composition your monitoring teams, and how to communicate with relevant state authorities and assembly organizers.